So last week's film was that battery tray, wasn't it? Which was good. And then I was saying we need to have the little bits on here to hold the clamps down, to hold the tied out rods down, that pull the battery in. Well, that's done, so I did them. So that was that. But that means we've then got to do the corners, these corner pieces. So otherwise there's nothing for that to fit to. So that one I've done. So that was quite nice and easy. You can see that one. And that effectively goes in there and becomes that, doesn't it? It gets rid of all that lot. And that's nice and easy. That's that. So I was able to pattern that off of there quite quickly and do that. But remember the other side was all missing, wasn't it? Everything was missing here. So we didn't have anything to really work with. So I was using the other car to create a pattern. But if we see, we're just going to have a look. You know, I talked about making paper patterns and how you've seen that before. So I thought we'll have a very quick look at how I pattern something out. I thought that would be interesting. So you can see I'm making this up. Now, I haven't done that with a paper pattern. I've done that straight in with the metal, and I'll show you for why in a minute. But let's just take it off and have a look at what's going on. Right. So we had a bit in here, what was left of the original, but you can see this edge. That panel's not looking good, and it's got this sort of straight edge along here. Well, it had been cut back to there and sort of pushed in and welded over, so it was missing this bit, this shape. So to do that, I've got to replace that, haven't I? But to replace that, I need to pattern it. And obviously that, to make what I was making this piece, to make this weird bit to go in there, obviously it's not going to join on that edge. You know, that edge is, the edge I need is missing. So that's why I was looking at the other car. So I've pulled all this apart. So let's have a quick look on the other car at what's gone on and how I've patterned this. I'll stick it up in the air because we need to see it underneath first. We'll be wanting a light. I'll just grab that. So the offending panel is this one. So we can see that's the outer panel that was missing or had been badly replaced, and then it's this panel where they cut the edge of it off. So you can see we've got folds through here that go through like that, and it all goes all the way back up here. So with a bit of paper, we're able to get up in there, aren't we, and create a pattern for it. So effectively, that's what we do, which is, you know, we use that. And I use these little magnets to hold it on whilst I'm working on it. And I gradually work up from there. You know, this can give us, and why we've got bits of tape on here is just where I've cut it too short to add a bit on to sort of enable it. And then I have to, you know, put my marks so I know where I've got to put my flanges on. So I make some flanges up. So that's that bit. And so that's patterned that out. Then this bit, I was able to do that from underneath. Now, can you see here, we've got an exhaust mount here. So we've still got that. I'll just grab it and bring it over. We've still got that from the old panel. So they actually re-welded that back on when they did the other work, you know, when all that lot was messed about with. So we have that, so we've got that, so we can reuse that. But we didn't have any of this left. You know, what was there was so messed about with, we just cut it off and got rid of it. So I've made a pattern up for that, which is again the same thing, bit of the old paper, but I've had to go up round here past that. So that sort of gives me, you know, what we're working on. And then the reason that folds over like that is because obviously that's another panel there. So this panel goes behind that one. So I've just, you know, I cut that to shape and then I've added a bit on there. And then we've got the flange on the bottom here, you see, so we've got to add the flange on there. So there's what's left of a flange that goes up round there. So I've put notes on there. So that's given me that bit. So I've got that piece, which I need to replace to then work out where this all has to go. And then I've got that bit. So I've done those two. Now, if we let it down again, we can have another look from above at why I didn't use a paper pattern for that next bit. Okay. So we're working on this battery tray area, aren't we? It's difficult to get in here and see, but we're replacing this area, and that goes onto here, and that will then, that edge will join on that piece that we're missing, isn't it? So that's why to make that bit with, you know, that paper bit up. So we then got a fold here where it folds upright, then it curls over this way, you know, if another fold brings it in this direction, then folds under there. So it's all spot welded through there. But then we get to this area, and look, we've got this weird kickback here, and then it kicks back there again. So it's very odd shape through here, and that sort of allows you to push the battery in, because obviously if that comes straight up, you'd get the battery stuck when you're trying to replace it and put one in there. So it's an odd shape, a very difficult thing to make because of that. And mucking around with bits of paper was going to be difficult. So what I did, I went straight in with a steel. So let's go back over here and have a proper look at that. So let's get this panel off. So you can see what I've made. So there you go, that's that panel, isn't it? So I made that one up. So you can see how much was missing. It's all that edge is missing. But we've got problems here where all that's rusted, and you know, that's a new bit that someone's let in, so's that, but there's a bit of the original. And there's a bit of that flange where it folds down, which would be that bit of that flange there. So that gives us that. So I can use this, as you see, I can put this back up in here. And then that gives me a datum to work to, which is what I need. I need this edge there. I need to know where that lands there, because that gives me a datum for the lower part of that, doesn't it? So this is why I've gone straight in and done it with the steel bit, because it's such a weird shape to recreate. Let's just put this in here so we can sort of hold it in. That'll hold it in enough to do that. So there we are. So you can see we've got that fold there, which we just looked at, that one where it folds across, and then we've got these strange angles here, and then that goes across there. And so that changes direction there a bit, because it's got to follow that and follow this. So in practice, that's why I've done it like that. So this is just, you know, practice piece. But obviously it's got to have that edge on it as well, that edge that goes down there with all the returns. But it was very difficult to work all that out otherwise. But this gives me, I can now pattern off that quite successfully, hopefully. And there we go. So that will tuck in there like that. And you see that will all line up then, won't it? And should work. I mean, needs a little bit more tweaking, but you can see what we're getting at. You know, we're going to be a success, this, isn't it? It's going to work, isn't it? Let's just clamp it on. And then here, you see where our battery tray is going to go on, isn't it? Like that. And you see where this all lines up nicely, doesn't it, there? That will need chasing in a bit, but that's sort of how they are. If you look at the other one, that had to be chased in on the other one. So that will sit nicely like that. And we've got that, remember, we've got that funny drain bit we've got to put in there, haven't we? Which we were messing around with the plastering last week. So you can get what we're going to get. And then it has a strengthening bracket that goes off of here that ties in there, which I'll have to make. But that then becomes joined in with the inner and outer wheel tub. But I reckon that's going to work, isn't it? I reckon that's all right. So that's a lot better than what was there. So what was there was that lot, and that was too short. So that sort of ended there. Didn't have that fold in it. Didn't have really any information with that. Come around, you'll see, you know, there's nothing there. No battery box. So I had nothing to work with. But before I cut that off, I had to have a good look at it and see if there was any clues on a bit of an old chewing gum. It's not Nina Simone's chewing gum. I don't think Nina Simone had a Dino, did she? But I did meet a girl once at a show who looked every inch Nina Simone, a young Nina Simone. And she was telling me that she had a black Dino Spider back in the 1980s, and she used to tear around London in it. And yeah, that someone put a spell on me. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. I'll say good night.